Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news this morning after the Liverpool debacle, and Ralf Rangnick after the game basically coming out afterwards and saying we need 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players at this football club, and that was a very apparent thing to him within 3 or 4 weeks of coming into the club. We'll obviously be delving into that. We've had more comments from the players. There's just so many things. I mean, look, I was literally just reading Jesse Lingard's comments and I had to take a deep breath before I went live. I mean, I haven't really got a problem with Lingard. Just go at this stage, just get out the club. But I mean, it just shows you the lackadaisical, lazy, couldn't give a shit attitude that these overpaid millionaires have got. Because he basically is just like a robot again. He comes out, he says, yeah, we feel the pain of the fans who follow us home and away. We get it, it's hard, but we'll just go back on the training ground and work really hard. I'm always ready to play for the shirt. I'm always ready to give 110%. It was a free hit last night. We just had to press them and run around a lot. And I'm like, what are you talking about, mate? You're just literally in a robot mode talking out your arse. And he's not even a real big problem. He's hardly played this season, but it was a free hit. A free hit. What are you talking about, a free hit? We had the chance of getting top 4 and we're playing our biggest rivals who are trying to go for a quadruple. You're a guy that's played through the youth setup. What are you talking about, a free fucking hit? What free hit? Oh, it's another free hit at the weekend. It's not a bloody testimonial and it's not pre-season. It's not a free hit. Maybe this is a glimpse as to why we're failing. Because all the players are just like, well, we'll turn up. It's a free hit. We'll have a go. If it doesn't work, sorry to the fans. Fuck off. Get out of our club. You lazy bastards. They've just got completely the wrong attitude. And they're all of them. Rangnick's right. We need a whole new team. A whole new team is needed at Manchester United. And I've actually seen some journalists coming out this morning saying, well, it's not very advisable that Ralf Rangnick's saying this publicly, that he needs a whole new team. What does he expect to happen at the weekend? If you've been out publicly slagging the players off, they're just going to perform badly at the weekend. What? Like they haven't done already? I mean, do you not think that Ralf Rangnick is probably at the point now where he thinks, it doesn't matter what I say. I've tried to build them up, I've tried to motivate them, I've called them shit, and they still perform shit. Like, really, we're past the point where what Rangnick says matters. And to these pundits and fans who want to blame it on Rangnick, I'll tell you now, if you work on a building site and you build some houses and you've got 10 houses, let's say 11 houses, you'll know what I'm talking about here. So I've built 11 houses and I'm a project manager, yeah? And I need those houses to be wired up because I want to put electricity in there. If I don't employ 11 specialist electricians and I just get 11 prats to come and wire it up, it's going to get dangerous and there ain't going to be electricity in that house. It doesn't matter how good a project manager I am. Obviously, as a good project manager, I will employ 11 good electricians. But Rangnick's not been given the power to do that. He's basically been given a project with a bunch of prats. And people talk about it, well, it's on Rangnick. He's not a very good coach. He can't get the best out of these players. They are shit players. You cannot get a tune out of a piece of wood. They are no good. They are just not good enough. And the only reason they were half good is because Ollie used to protect them and they felt a little bit happy. But they're crap players. They're absolutely crap. So I don't think Rangnick can actually say anything. I really don't think Rangnick can do anything with those players. I don't think Jurgen Klopp can do anything with those players. I don't think Pep Guardiola can do anything with those players. They're shit. That's the bottom line. They're crap because they are crap. And there's a couple of things I wanted to say because I don't know when Manchester United Football Club, these ex-players, the media are going to wake up and just, give the fans a bit of credit. Because was it not you, the fans, who were saying Solskjaer's a load of shit, get rid of him? No, we've had a board meeting, we'll keep him for another month. Thanks for that. You cost us a load more points there. He's my mate. I won't call him out. Thanks for that. Putting your mates ahead of the football club that gave you a career. Good one. You still want to sit on your big fat arse in your suit talking about United and get paid to do it, but you won't talk honestly about United. They get on my tits. These ex-players get right on my tits because they're more than happy to take their bloody hundreds of thousands of pounds contracts at these big media companies and sit there pontificating about what they know, but they won't call out their mates. And it's too bloody late. Too late. You wouldn't call Solskjaer out. You haven't called bloody Maguire out. He's another example. There's a few others. Rashford's hardly been called out at all. But you sit there more than happy to tell us about what's wrong with United, but you don't want to call your mates out. Well, at some point, At some point, can we get some acknowledgement from this football club and our ex-players and the media that the fans have always been right? The fans said to get rid of Ollie weeks before they did. And what did the fans also say? What did the fans say? And this is going to bury them. What did the fans say at the start of the season? You can buy Ronaldo, you can buy Sancho, you can buy Varane. But without a midfield, this team is probably going to struggle. We've lost virtually every midfield battle we've had. We don't discriminate. We do not discriminate at Manchester United. You can be Liverpool's midfield. You can be Norwich's midfield. You can even be Middlesbrough's midfield. You can even be Young Boys' midfield. We don't care. We are shit, and we will let you run that midfield. Now, I remember for the last 2 years, we've had countless conversations on this community and the wider Manchester United fan base about the need to buy a midfielder. And Manchester United, with all their geniuses and all their money, decided, no, we won't buy a midfield. And look at where we are now. We are desperately missing McTominay and Fred, who, even when they're fit, are shit, but we're desperately missing them now. We have got no midfield, and we as a fan base have been talking about a midfield, but the geniuses at our football club last summer decided, and all of them can take blame, from Solskjaer to Carrick to Phelan to Murta to Fletcher to Woodward, the lot of them sat there last summer and decided we don't need a midfielder. And every week of this season, we have sat there and watched that midfield get absolutely annihilated. And what did Mo Salah say last night? He basically said, home and away against Man United, you know you're going to dominate the midfield. And that's been our problem this season. We ignored the midfield and we paid for it ever since. And now you've got Ralf Rangnick, who's got Fred and McTominay injured. A shit midfield even when they're fit. Now Pogba's injured as well. We've got no midfield. Bring the lone players back and play the youth. I mean, they can't be worse than that, says Jack. And Ryan, thank you very much for the super chat there. Mate, we are celebrating Hannibal Mabry coming on last night and running about a bit. And look, fair play to the kid, but he didn't get hold of the ball and skip past 4 players. He didn't get hold of the ball and play a worldie through pass to the striker. He just came on and put a bit of effort on, and he exposed all of them. All of them got exposed last night because there is a player that runs about a bit. I would say this, and there's 2 things I want to say really. I said it last night in the watch along, and I think it deserves to come out again. Since we beat West Ham at the end of January, but more importantly, since the transfer window closed at the end of January, when we let Donny go, Martial go, and we kept Lingard for some stupid reason, we didn't buy anybody. We have played for 33 points since the end of the January transfer window, and I think we've taken, is it 15 or 16? I think it's 16 points from 33. So we've dropped over 50% of our points since the end of January. I guarantee you now that if we had played Van der Beek or Lingard instead of Bruno, if we had played Martial instead of Rashford, and if we had played Bailly or Jones instead of Maguire, we would at least be in the same position, probably in the better position. What does that say to you? I'll tell you what that says to me. The biased favouritism in this fucking football club is burying it. Burying it. I watched the captain of Manchester United last night run off the pitch, not do an interview. Coward. Absolute coward. I watched the captain of Manchester United last night cost us 3 goals. Shit. Absolute shit. And I've been watching it all season. If he starts against Arsenal on Saturday, which he will, we'll have all the evidence. I'm actually going to call it out right here, right now. If Harry Maguire starts on Saturday, and he's not the only one, but Rashford maybe won't start, I don't know. Bruno will probably start because who else is going to play? But we have got options at centre-back. Eric Bailly is a better centre-back than Harry Maguire. I'm fed up of people telling me, there are actually people out there that goes, Maguire gets picked on too much. He's not at fault a lot of the time. He's playing offside traps when he can see that he's looking at Victor Lindelof, who's 5 yards ahead deeper than him, and he decides to play offside on the 4th goal. What kind of prat do you have to be to try and play an offside trap when you know one of your players is deeper than you and isn't going to play offside? What kind of prat do you have to do to appeal for a handball when your player handballs it? He's rubbish, and he's been rubbish for a very long time. He's not quick, he's not agile, he doesn't read the game very well, he doesn't mark up very well. Yes, when he's got nobody in front of him, he can get the ball and run for 50 yards because no one thinks he's a threat, and then he'll pass it backwards again. He's rubbish. He's absolutely rubbish. And if he starts against Arsenal on Saturday, having cost us so many goals this season, we're not in the Champions League because of him. If he starts on Saturday, which he will, that's all the evidence I need to know what we've all been fearing for a long time. This team is not being picked on merit. It is not being picked on fairness. It is not being picked on ability. It is being picked on politics. What those politics are, whether it's Darren Fletcher sticking his nose in, whether it's the club saying he must start because we paid £80 million on him and we can't afford to lose it, whether he's too powerful in the football club, you take your pick. I don't know the politics, but if he starts on Saturday, and he will, it just confirms what this football club's been about for a very long time. This ain't about football. This is about politics. You cannot keep picking a player that shit. And yet we will. And it needs calling out. There is absolutely nobody who would say he should start on Saturday. Nobody. He's just absolutely humiliated. He's a coward. He wouldn't come out after the game as the captain. And he cost us 3 goals. And it's not the first time. It's all season. And you've got someone like Eric Bailly, Phil Jones, Victor Lindelof. Varane will be back at the weekend. He shouldn't be anywhere near that starting lineup on Saturday. But he will be, because this is the problem at United. And it needs calling out. And look, they're probably going to announce Erik ten Hag today. And if they do announce Erik ten Hag today, the board can have a bit as well. Because I tell you what, to paper over the cracks of a disgusting performance like that last night, with Erik ten Hag being announced, is the typical cowardice of Manchester United Football Club. We know we're getting Erik ten Hag. Don't use that positivity to mask that shit last night. That needs to fester. That needs calling out. People need to vent their frustration about that last night. And we must have time to do that. And in doing that, things need calling out, like the total and utter incompetence in relation to running this football club. I hear people say, well, Murta and Fletcher, they didn't really have a proper summer last year. They did. They were appointed in fucking March. They had a full summer last year and they decided not to buy a midfielder. Just like Ollie, just like everybody else. The fans called it out. And all season, it's been bloody obvious that certain players shouldn't be being picked and they consistently get picked. We are not the dog and duck. It's not bloody Harry Maguire's dad picking the team. This is Manchester United. Maguire, Bruno, Wan-Bissaka, Rashford. They shouldn't be anywhere near the team. Nowhere near it at the moment. And yet, week after week, game after game, we're playing them. Look, I love Bruno Fernandes. He's had a brand new contract and he's played total shit since we've given it him. Absolutely shit. I can't... With Bruno and Rashford, I look at them and I go, I think there are good players there. But their performances are abysmal. They need booting into the reserves. But I think there's players there. I think that with the right coaching and the right mentality, there are good players there. But 100% they deserve kicking out the team. But I look at some players and I go, it doesn't matter how much we train you, you will never be Man United players. And that's what Ralph Rangnick's talking about when he says 5 or 6 players. Bradders says it's my birthday today. Okay. And Man United emailed me 10% off their merch products and 50% off membership. Says everything about the club at the moment. Don't do it. Mo Salah said it was basically easy for him with that midfield and defence as Ian King. He did. We are 5 years off where we need to be. Even if we get 9 or 10 players, it will take a while, says Slow Sports News. Even Rangnick himself and Bruno spoke harshly to the squad in the locker room after the match, says Daniel. And Mark, would you like to see Maguire moved on when the new manager comes in, says Chaos Jokers. Look, my opinion is one opinion, but I was reading a lot of stuff late last night on social media, and one thing that really resonated to me, and I forget who said it, is that I think some of these players have done themselves so much damage they won't come back. They won't come back. It reminds me of a manager when they've lost loads of games, they get a couple of wins, and people say, oh, they'll be fine. You're damaged by the bad run. As soon as people start talking about a manager saying get them out, you never come back. You don't. You might have a stay of execution, you might have a good few results, but there's not many managers in history when the fans have started to say manager out that come back and survives. I mean, Sir Alex sort of did, to be fair, in the late 80s, but it's a rarity. I think when the trust is gone, it's very hard in football to win it back. And I mean, realistically, take your pick on one of these players, but if you are Bruno Fernandes, right, there's a lot of fans that have lost faith in him. A lot of fans have had enough of him, right? For him to win that faith back, he's got to win the trust back. Now, if you're Bruno Fernandes, I think it's possible because the sort of player that he is, he's capable of getting assists and goals and man of the match awards regularly for 5 or 6 months. And that would probably get him win the trust back. But for certain other players, do you think they're going to start playing 8 out of 10 every week for the next 2 months? No, they're not. Some of these players just aren't good enough and they are very frustrating. But when you're not good enough and you've down tools as well, that's unforgivable. I don't think some of these players are good enough. And look, when I look at that defence last night and I look at that midfield last night, and if I'm Erik ten Hag and the way I want to play football, I want to play football like Liverpool. I want to play... There was times when Man United were hitting a ball over the top of Liverpool and we were in. Whether it's Sancho or Rashford, we were in. And you think, oh, we're in. But you're not really in. That's Liverpool playing with a high line so that they can press us, knowing that they are weak and vulnerable to the ball over the top, but backing themselves to get back. So when we were hitting the ball over the top and Sancho's in or Rashford's in, we're thinking, oh, we're going to score, but we never did. Because Trent Alexander-Arnold or Van Dijk or Matic would just sprint back themselves to get back and make a tackle. That's how Ten Hag wants to play. That's how RANGNICK wants to play. He can't do it. We can't play that high line with Lindelof and Maguire. We can't do it. Or Delo. We can't do it. They're not quick enough. We saw that on the first goal. We saw it on other goals. Wan-Bissaka is quick, but he doesn't anticipate the danger. So if Wan-Bissaka's got a few seconds to get back, he'll get back. But if he's only got a second to get back, he won't. That whole back four last night ain't quick enough. It's not quick enough. Whether it's good enough, it ain't quick enough. And in the modern game, you've got to be quick enough. So, look, one, I think most of them are shit. Two of them, I just don't think they suit high-end football. So I don't see the future. Welcome to Members Club, then, and welcome to Members Club, Ahmed. Thank you very much for joining. Big worry for me is that RANGNICK clearly explained after the game why we lost and that he had told them how to prevent these goals before the game. If these players are coachable, what hope has got Ten Hag got, says Andrew O'Brien. And this is the headline I want to talk about. RANGNICK demands a new team. So Ralf Rangnick came out after the game and said that we need 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players. He also said before the game, the only position that we don't need to change is goalkeeper. So he said it before the game and he said it after the game and he got a shit sandwich. He did, because the shit in between was the players proving his point. We've got weak mentality players who aren't good enough. The manager's come out and said that we need to change the team. If I'd have been playing last night after those comments, my pride would have kicked in and I would have put in a good performance. But these players don't. They are... Look, I know people close to that team. I know people within that club. And they will all tell you this. And it's not breaking news. It's slow sports news. They've got a weak mentality. I think some people say, oh, they're a load of shit. They're a bunch of bottlers. They're a bunch of cowards. And they're saying it because they're frustrated and they want the players to hear it and they want the players to be hurt by it and respond to it. Don't say it for that reason. Say it because it's true. Like, I know people who know these players who say they're just up their own arse. They think they've made it. They're up their own arse. They're surrounded by people who are telling them that they're great. And actually, they don't care about the fans at all. When they say, oh, we feel sorry for the fans, oh, the fans that follow us home and away, and they clap them and everything like that, they don't really care. They prove that every week for 90 minutes that they don't really care. They don't care. What they care about is their nice house, their family, their money, the people around them that are making money, and the fact is that they're set for life. Man United not winning the title and Liverpool winning a quadruple doesn't impact on them. They're not Manchester United fans, these players. They're fans of themselves. They're fans of the life they've built, and they want to protect that. And anybody who attacks that, they'll stab them in the back. They're not a unit. They're not a team that's driven. You look at what Roy Keane said last night. We'll talk about what Scholes said in a minute. They look at this team and they find it unrecognisable. They don't get it because they came from an era, they played in a team like this Liverpool team now. You can't say, well, that's the past, because there are teams like Liverpool and Man City who are playing like we did with unity. They look at these players now and they're like, I don't recognise this. This isn't Manchester United, because they are egotistical players who are also shit, who care only about themselves and will throw the fans under the bus. They'll throw other players under the bus. They'll throw managers under the bus to protect themselves. They're the self-preservation society and they're not very nice people. And you hear that all the time. You hear it from people within the club who work with them. You hear it from the media. You hear it from people who know them. They are not nice people. They are not focused on this football club, and they are not focused on anything else but themselves. They are literally living in a bubble, having a laugh. And at the end of the day, criticism online and everything like that, they'll make out that it impacts on them. That it doesn't impact on them. They're not that bothered. And they've got absolutely no concept that they have contributed to all this criticism. Big worry for me is that Rangnick clearly explained after. So look, at the end of the day, in relation to what Ralph Rangnick said after the game yesterday, we need 6, 7, 8, 9 players. If you're a journalist or an ex-player or a fan or in the media criticising a manager doing that, you need to remove your head from your arse. Like, if you've watched Man United this season in general, but specifically since the last international break, at home to Leicester, absolutely abysmal performance. It was rubbish. I know we got a draw, but it was disgusting. Away to Everton, even worse. Disgusting. Norwich, if it wasn't for De Gea and Ronaldo, was as bad as Everton and Leicester. And then last night, abysmal again. 4 games in a row, these players have played like they don't give a shit. Now, some of them don't give a shit because they're going, but some of them have got long-term contracts. Some of them have just been handed a contract. Some of them are negotiating new contracts. People like Rashford, Fred, Luke Shaw, they're in the point. They're opening up chats with the club about new contracts, and yet performances are being put in like that. They are not good enough. And Ralph Rangnick himself said within 3 or 4 weeks of being at this club, it was very obvious to me that it needed a hard reset. And a hard reset is 6, 7, 8, 9 players. Well, you go through that team last night and you're absolutely harsh. Look, some people would say they want a new goalkeeper. I'd say you're an idiot. Like, he is the last of our problems, David De Gea. Like, a goalkeeper that's going to be our player of the year. Okay, he can improve, but he's far from the problem. You've got a right back. I don't think any of the... I mean, look, Tellez is fit, and he's not even being picked when Luke Shaw's injured. So forget Tellez. He ain't good enough. Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, I don't really think they're good enough. Lindelof, I don't mind as a backup. Maguire, I'd just get rid of him. Jones, we know he's got to go. Matic has got to go. Pogba's going to go. Bruno, I mean, look, Bruno and Rashford for me, I think there is talent there, but at the moment they are beyond recognisable as talented footballers for Manchester United. Sancho, I like. Alanga's for the future. Realistically, De Gea apart last night, and I'm like, how can Rangnick be wrong saying we need 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players? The big question is, it's obvious to me, it's obvious to you, it's obvious to the wider world that Manchester United, and let's not forget as well, we're getting sympathy now. We're getting sympathy. I don't think Liverpool fans really went in on us anywhere near as much as they should have done. As I said, I still haven't had any messages from Liverpool fans who normally would have been messaging me all week, messaging me during the game, messaging me after the game. We are in the world of where Arsenal was. We are now sympathy. We are now laughed at. We are not even worthy of being a rival. But that's not a lie. We've gifted Liverpool and Man City 12 points this season. Gift wrapped them up. Walked out with a white flag. The worst 4 games I think we've ever seen against Man City and Liverpool. Disgusting performances. Absolutely disgusting. Factually, the worst Man United side in Premier League history. Factually, the worst footballing side we've seen in Premier League history. And on top of that, the most expensive squad we've ever had in Premier League history. The best paid squad in the Premier League history. Nowhere can you find a positive in this lot. They are the best paid players and they're the worst team. If I was any of those players, I would be embarrassed. I would be absolutely embarrassed. But they're not. They're not embarrassed. They don't care because they don't think it's their fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's not our fault. And at the end of the day, let the haters hate because I'm earning money. And I'll be here next season. And that's the problem. Erik ten Hag, is Ralph Rangnick going to get listened to? Or are this club going to do what I think they will do and go, well, Rangnick was the problem? Because to listen to Rangnick, you've got to accept that you're the problem. Because Rangnick's basically saying that the recruitment and the players are shit. Well, the players didn't buy themselves. The people who bought these players are still at the club. The people who suggested these players are still at the club. This club needs to listen to Rangnick and back Ten Hag. And yet to do that, they've got to accept that they were the fault. They were at fault. A lot of these people signed the checks. A lot of these recruitments went out and suggested these players. And also, to come in and do what is basically a FIFA career mode summer and sell 10 players and buy 10 players is unprecedented in Man United's history. They do need to do it, but they won't do it. So what will happen is next season we will see players from last night playing for Manchester United. And that is a risk. Because when you are a manager of Man United and you're picking some of those players that played last night, you know for a fact they're capable of putting performances in like that. You know for a fact they're capable of downing tools. You know for a fact they're capable of not being a team player. And you know for a fact they're more than capable of stabbing you in the back. Well, what a great foundation to rebuild a club on, with players that are capable of downing tools, that are two-faced, backstabbers, ain't good enough and out for themselves. Like, that's not the platform. That is not the platform to build a new football club. Welcome to the Members Club, Dars. And hi, Mark. Just wanted to get your view on how do we convince good players to join us. Drub, we've got no problem with that. I'm not worried about this. Mikael Roach says, morning, Mark. How was Maguire half decent for Leicester and crap for us, says Mikael Roach. Look, I don't want it to turn into the Marcus Rashford show, the Bruno Fernandes show, the Harry Maguire show, because what does that do? The reality is, in relation to Harry Maguire, I fell into the trap. I'm sure many of you fell into the trap. I saw him score goals for Leicester. I saw him play well for England, and I was like, he's a good centre-back. And I'll put my hands up and say I got it wrong. When we bought him, my video was probably very positive. There was times when I probably said positive things, but I don't apologise for that, because when Man United buy a player, one thing we are very good at this football club, and we can never be criticised for, is we will give people a chance. Even if we're not sure about it, we will give them a chance. So, of course you're going to back your player when you buy a player. You're not going to buy a player and go, they're a bag of shit. You're going to back them. But I also feel that when you look at it pragmatically, and I will learn something from Maguire, definitely, and Wan-Bissaka, is that when you pay that amount of money for a player that no one else will pay that money for, and you analyse the player, how much of your optimism is just pure faith and how much of it is actual pure knowledge? And I think for me, when I look at the Maguire signing, I was acting on pure faith. I was like, well, if you're paying £80 million for an England centre-back, and Liverpool did it with Van Dijk from Southampton, you pay for what you get. And it was a massive mistake, because when you look at his game, and I was thinking about it last night, when I look at his game, I should have seen it a mile off. I actually apologise. I should have seen it a mile off. And if I make a mistake like this again, I'll be calling myself out. I think to do it once is fine. But when you look at his game, you could see this was going to happen. The modern centre-back is mobile. The modern centre-back can sense danger. The modern centre-back is agile. Agile isn't speed. Agile is... it's in your hips. It's how quick you can move. It's it's manoeuvrability in the box. It's speed. It is, but it's awareness. It's everything. How agile your brain is. How quick you think. Maguire ain't quick. He ain't agile, and he doesn't think quick. And that's why he makes mistakes, and that's why he gets exposed. He was never going to be that. We bought him at 26, 27. He's 29 now. He's never going to get quicker. He's never going to become more agile. He's never going to run the game any better. It's very obvious that when you look at it, we got conned, and Leicester did a great deal. The only thing I would say in my defence is that I actually thought he was going to be brilliant in the air. I thought he was going to score us about 6 or 7 goals a season in the Premier League, and he doesn't. So we got conned. He's he's just not very good. The price tag. Some people say the price tag is a problem. I actually think it's a benefit to him, because if we'd paid 20 million for him, he wouldn't be here anymore. He's only at the club because we paid 80 million for him, and the club are like, we've got to keep picking him. We paid 80 million pounds for him. We can't drop an 80 million pound player. So I actually think the price tag benefits him, because I think the only reason he's still in the team is because of what we paid for him. And also, we'll never be able to sell him. I agree that many players are self-centred, but I believe the club is to blame for that, says Joseph. We've turned these players into commercial assets. I think you're right, Joseph. I've said that before. I think you're 100% right. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching, by the way. I think you're absolutely correct. I think we have turned these players into egotistical prats who are, obsessed with off-field antics, and it has bit us in the arse. I think you are right there. But how we move forward is the thing. I mean, I don't know how you live your lives, but the way I live my life is this, and I think a lot of people will relate to this. When you have things that go wrong, you've got to react to that. You can't, when things go bad, you can't just go, oh, well, these things happen. That's not how I live my life. When things like last night happen, and when seasons like this happen, you've got to get angry. You've got to get frustrated. You've got to vent, and you've got to shout from the rooftops, this is not acceptable, which is what we've been doing. But you've also got to, amongst that, at some point go, right, how do we get out of this? And look, unfortunately, look at Liverpool. Liverpool, for 30 years, never looked like they were going to win a Premier League title. Now, the tables have turned. We don't look like we're anywhere near winning a Premier League title. Liverpool look like they could win it every year. So the hope is that, even Jurgen Klopp said it last night. Our job is not to humiliate Manchester United because the tables will turn and they will be back at some point. Our job was to get the job done and win the game. And I mean, Jurgen Klopp as well. I've been saying this for a while now. I've never known a Liverpool manager so likeable. They're so lucky to have him. I don't think Liverpool fans ever felt this about Sir Alex. But Jurgen Klopp, I actually do think is a top guy and a top manager. And that makes it even harder when your rivals got that sort of level of success. So, look, Man United can bounce back. It's going to take time to do it. But the next question is, we almost need to stop talking about the players. Like, we all know the players that we individually think aren't good enough. And I ain't going to change my mind on that. And some of them just need to go. Giving Bruno a new contract baffles me, says Saham. Mark, do you think past players like Neville and Keane should get involved with the club and try and help? No, Louis, I don't. Because would you trust Gary Neville to rebuild the club? He wanted to keep Moyes. He wanted to keep Solskjaer. He's consistently backed people like Maguire. His judgment's no good. I'd rather you did the job. Mark, what you saw in Maguire was right. This is a systematic issue. How do you pay a player like Maguire 150 grand a week when joining? No incentive to work. Yeah, well, again, you're right, Sean. The wages we pay people is a disgrace as well. And didn't Atletico buy 10 and sell 10 players in one summer window alone, says Julian. Well, look, I just wanted to clarify this before we talk about what Scholesy said. So we're now, in my mind, we're well into the how do we improve. And the appointment of Ten Hag is the right appointment. The next, we know Ten Hag's the manager. You can announce it when you bloody well like. We know that's going to happen. What needs to happen next is, and this is what I talk about, steps. I'll applaud the club for appointing Ten Hag, but I've moved on from that now. United fans are really like this. We don't settle on success. We always want more. So Ten Hag's coming in. Well done. That was yesterday. What's today? Well, today, what we need to see from the club is the removal of the shit. And look, this ain't a blip. Some of these players have been here for 3 or 4 years. Some of them have been for 2 years, and they've been consistently not good enough. The club needs to be brave this summer. It needs to clear out. It needs to clear out. And it needs to give the manager the best opportunity as possible. Well, I will say this right here, right now. There are certain players that are going to be at this club next season who are poison. They're poison. They've proved it on the pitch. They're poison. You're going to let a new manager come in and tell him to work with some of those players. Decisions should be made. They should be made this summer. Loan them out, kick them out, boot them out, get rid of them. And I'm not just talking about removing players that are leaving anyway. There's people out of contract that are going to leave. That's got nothing to do with this. There's people under contract who need booting out. Absolutely booting out. They cannot be trusted. They are backstabbing poison and they have to be kicked out. I don't think the club's going to do it. And I think that's what RANGNICK was basically saying after the game last night. When he's talking about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players, he's basically, with knowledge, 100% RANGNICK is feeling what you're feeling. He can't say it publicly, but he knows those players more in depth than we know, and we can see it with our eyes every match. He sees them in training. He knows what they're like. He knows what those players are, and he knows they're not good enough, and he also knows that their mentality and behaviour is not good enough. And you can guess what those players are. We all know what those players are. But is this football club going to kick them out? A football club would kick them out. A business won't do it. Because a business is like, we can't get rid of an £80 million player. We can't get rid of a player with 10 million followers on Twitter. We can't, because it's all commercial. It's the bottom line and it's money. And that is what's going to destroy United over the next couple of years, is that the new manager is going to be stuck with some of the shit. That in a proper club, they would clear it out and say, look, we want you to be successful. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like Erik Ten Hag being given the penthouse of a 5-star hotel, and then United saying, you've got the room, but the sheets are terrible. We've not cleaned the sheets. They're still shit from the person who was in before. Like, they should be clearing it out for him to start. And I don't think they'll do it. Do you think the players have down tools because they were pissed off because Ollie got the sack, says Joseph? I think they've down tools because they are ignorant, overpaid, arrogant, egotistical players who don't really give a shit about anyone but themselves. I don't think they down tools because Ollie got the sack. They'd already down tools for Ollie. They're just a bunch of egotistical prats. I know they're out for themselves. They're out for themselves. Anything they say about the fans is bullshit because you can see that with your own eyes. Like what Lingard said, I always give my effort full. I think that's the worst thing. If those players are giving their full effort, that's even worse than downing tools in my mind. Because if that's them at their best, they're shitter than I thought. I know Bruno has been really bad. However, he said we need to look at ourselves from top to bottom, and anyone who isn't committed should be out the team, says Daniel. Look, Daniel, I like Bruno. And what he said after the game last night was spot on. But what I can't do, Daniel, is I cannot just say, well, Bruno did a really good interview after the game and ignore the fact that on the pitch for the last month he's been dreadful. If that was Harry Maguire, people would be on his case saying, oh, he's talking out his arse. So why is Bruno not talking out his arse? The proof is on the pitch. Anybody can put out a good statement because they've got Man United and these players literally pay people to come up with good lines and good spins. What Bruno said after the game last night was very, very good. But I just watched him play for 90 minutes, like I did against Leicester and Everton, and he was abysmal. So I can't give him credit for saying something after the game when on the pitch he's been dreadful. Well said, Mark. Yesterday was the epitome of a football club via a commercial club, says Navid. For the last 10 years, we've suffered from short-termism. To be honest, I don't think Liverpool that bad in the last 30 years, says Jay. I mean, that's the scary thing. Mikael Roach, thanks for the super chat. I've been saying it since the Europa League final loss. Our players do not have the grit to pay for this club. That's the word, says Thomas Shelby. And I just want to go back to what Jay said this as well. This scary thing for me is that I've been watching Man United play Liverpool since the mid-80s. Late 80s, really. I wouldn't really remember it in the mid-80s. And there will be older fans who remember it more. But I don't remember a Man United side playing that bad against Liverpool. I also don't remember a Liverpool side playing that bad against Man United. And I've seen amazing Man United sides play shit Liverpool sides. I've seen amazing Man United sides play shit Man City sides. And yet I've seen those shit Man City sides and shit Liverpool sides give us a game on pure adrenaline. That's the underdog story. That's why sometimes you will see an underdog be a favourite, because the underdog is motivated, organised and focused. That United side yesterday was the underdog on paper. It was very, very clear. But Liverpool wanted it more and United down tools. That's the hardest thing I think for United fans this morning is that, yeah, we're not as good as Liverpool on paper. You can see it very, very clearly. But you can also see that Liverpool players want it more. They've got more effort. They've got more adrenaline. They've got more focus. They've got more concentration. That's what hurts United fans. We can always lose a game. I've seen United get stuffed at Southampton in a grey kit. I've seen United get stuffed at Newcastle. You know, it can happen. With people like Keane and Scholes in the team, it can happen. You can lose a game. Doesn't mean you need to, say, sell the team or kick the manager out. You can lose a game of football. The thing that hurts the most is when you watch your team play and people who are wearing that shirt that you would love to wear, that you've seen people who are no longer with us wear, that you've seen legends wear. When you see those bunch of prats wearing the Man United shirt last night, representing everything about what your football club is, what you think it is, what your family think it is, what previous players and eras and managers have made it, and you see those players wearing that shirt, I couldn't give a shit about these players individually. You are a bunch of knobheads. Most people know that. But when you put that shirt on, you're meant to make us believe. And to see them in it like a bunch of frauds and imposters, it really boils the blood. That's the annoying thing, is that all you really want is somebody to represent that shirt in the way that it should be represented, in the way that you would represent it. These players are strangers. They're not United fans. They don't care about the club. They're just there for their own ego. And the club have got a massive part in that as well. Nobody ever talks about Klosterman at Leipzig. Ex-sprinter, plays centre-back, right-back, I believe, has played CDM. Am I missing something, says Kevin. Good point, Mark. Also just wondering, are you completely done with Marcus, says Daniel Kirk. Look, when it comes to Rashford, I'm a little bit different to what I'm like with certain other players. I genuinely think Bruno and Rashford have been terrible. the last few weeks. So bad that if they got sold, it would be their own fault. But I also think with Ten Hag, if I was Ten Hag, Rashford and Bruno are 2 players in pre-season I'd have a big look at. I'm not saying that by the end of the summer, the pre-season, I'd be saying sell them. I might still do that, but I think with Maguire, with Rashford and Bruno, I do believe there's something there. I might not be able to get it out of them. I personally think Rashford should leave. I think it's best for his career. He just doesn't look engaged. But with Rashford and Bruno, I do believe there's something there. I think with people like Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, as sad as it is, there's nothing there. They're never going to be good enough. And the sooner we get them out, the better. Just on pure talent. But look, the thing is, I would never throw Joe Hugel or Charlie McNeil from the youth into a United team. But last night, I can safely sit here and say, if they'd been playing up front for United last night, they'd have had a better performance than Rashford. It's nailed on. Because they would have ran around a bit more. They would have had more adrenaline. They would have been more up for it. They would have been more focused. And that's the thing that's pissing people off. It's gone beyond why they're not playing well. It's now why are they not trying. And that is the hardest thing. And only they know that. Why don't we ever hear from the executive team, says Michael. Well, we never will. Now, interestingly, just talking about ex-players, Scholesy put a post out on Instagram, Paul Scholes, saying that basically don't recognise this team as a Man United side, spot on. And then he said, get 8th place for Ten Hag and give him the time to build. Now, I understand, and I purposely bring this up because I think it was a good point by Scholesy, because I think some people in the chat will agree with him, some people won't. So basically, what Scholesy's saying is this team's a load of shit. It needs to finish 8th, so there's no European football, so that Erik Ten Hag can have the time with just Premier League games and domestic cups to rebuild the football club. Some people might agree with that. I completely disagree with it. And the only reason I disagree with it is this. I think we need Europa League football. We need Europa League football from a financial point of view, not to pay the Glazers dividends, but we need it from a financial point of view because it's revenue which will help us have more money to spend in the summer. We also need Europa League football because it's something. It's a bit of a carrot to dangle to new signings that we are in Europe, even though it's the Europa League. So I desperately think that the Europa League is very important to us. It's also important to us for another reason, and that is that 4th place next season is not nailed on. It might be easier to win the Europa League than finish 4th place. And if you win the Europa League, you're in the Champions League. Look at West Ham. West Ham are not going to finish 4th, but they might win the Europa League, which puts them in the Champions League. So the Europa League is very important for us for that reason. And then the final reason, we next season are going to need to try a lot of things out. If you're playing Southampton on the Saturday and your next game is Crystal Palace on the Sunday following week, yeah, you've got all the time in midweek to train. But I think, personally, you're better off playing Southampton, some group game, Europa League game, and then Palace. Because you can try things out then. So you might play Bruno as the number 10 against Southampton, but in the midweek Europa League game, you might try Donny with Maybury or something like that. I think the Europa League's really important for the rebuild, and I think Ten Hag would agree. 1, it's a path to the Champions League if you don't get 4th place. 2, it gives us more game time to try more things. And 3, it gives us more revenue, and at least we can say we are in Europe to a certain extent. So I actually think Europa League football is very, very important, and I don't want us to see us downing tools and finishing 8th. And also, if a Man United player, if you finish 8th, you're not going to get 60 points. You will never be forgiven. You will never be forgotten. You are on a fast track to the worst ever Premier League points total for Manchester United. They have got to try and pull something out of the bag. And look, you know what? I don't think against Arsenal on Saturday or the other games we're going to be. I think we've played our hardest game of the season now. Liverpool at Anfield, Etihad at Man City. They're the 2 games that we're always going to lose. We can get something on Sunday, but as I said, I mean, if he picks Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes on Saturday, I'm sorry, this club's a political club. It's a business club. There has to be accountability. You could easily drop Bruno for Lingard or Maybury. Why not? You could do that. You can easily drop Rashford because you can play Sancho, Mata, Elanga, maybe Ronaldo's back, maybe Cavani's back. And Maguire's the easiest of the lot to drop because you've got Bailly, Jones, Lindelof and Varane. So, look, it's got to the point now where I actually think Hannibal Mabry's cameo has shown that we're a better team with an inexperienced teenager in the side than we are with these overpaid, egotistical, down tools prats. But I don't think we'll see changes on Saturday against Arsenal on lunchtime kick-off. I think we will still see Maguire start with the captain's armband. I think we'll still see Rashford start, and I still think we'll see Bruno start. And that, to me, will just prove what we already know. This season has not been about picking the best players. It's not been about picking the form players. It's been about politics. And this football club has just become a financial vehicle for the Glazers. And we don't make decisions based on who deserves to start. We make decisions on whose face fits, who people like, what their value is, and political reasons. And we'll see it again on Saturday. And look, I for one can't stand this. I can't stand seeing a Man United team line up with people who shouldn't be in it. And, you know, those people are sat doing interviews saying, well, I obviously get picked for a reason. Yeah, you do get picked for a reason, but it's not footballing ability. 100% it's not footballing ability. How can you do an interview before a massive game like that telling everyone that you get picked because you're a good player and then cost us 3 goals? There's something sinister going on at that football club, and it's political. Roy Keane on Lad Bible said that every manager needs a small group of great senior players to succeed. At United, there is no one except Ronaldo and David De Gea, says Rickster. I'd take it beyond that, Rick. You need a spine. I mean, it's ironic. United are spineless, Jelly Babies FC. But we've got no spine. But we've got the beginning of the spine with De Gea, and we've got the end of a spine with Ronaldo. But you need a midfield and you need centre backs. Now, Varane, unfortunately, when Varane plays, we're better, but he doesn't play very often. We've got no midfield, so we have got no spine, and that is where we struggle, really. Anyway, look, I could talk and talk and talk. I'm going to be back at 2 o'clock. Maybe we will get Ten Hag's announcement today. I really hope that we don't do it today. I'd rather we did it tomorrow. I think the fan base needs this day to really process where we're at. And the sad thing is, last night is not one event. Remember, Liverpool smashed us at Old Trafford in October. We've been done by Man City twice. We've lost to Everton. We've been playing shite for weeks. We just lurch from one bad game to another. And, you know, if you think it's bad last night, and it was bad, if we get done by Arsenal, who aren't actually that good, they're better than us, but they're not Man City, Liverpool or Chelsea. If we get done at the weekend by Arsenal, I mean, things can only get worse. If I'm in charge of Man United, I'd love to be in charge of Man United. I'm holding a meeting this morning and I'm saying, where can we get Maguire gone this summer? Where can we get Rashford gone this summer? What do we do with Bruno if Ten Hag doesn't want to use him? How do we move him out of the team? It doesn't mean you have to get rid of them all, but definitely have options. So if Eric Ten Hag comes in and says, I want 8 of those players that started last night gone, I don't even want to see them in pre-season, you go, don't worry, we've got things in place, we can loan this player here, this player can go for this value, this, that and the other. United should be working on those things, but they won't. They'll be doing this morning. They'll be digging a hole to bury their head in the sand. Guarantee we've got no contingency plan to remove Maguire from the club, Bruno from the club, Rashford from the club, Wan-Bissaka from the club. You know, I'm not saying we need to get rid of all of them, but you should always have a plan in place. I guarantee you Pep Guardiola knows that if he falls out with De Bruyne, he can get rid of him and the club will back him. There'll be a plan in place. Man United don't have a plan in place. Do you think Donny will get straight back into the first team, says Steve? He'd walk into the team at the moment. We'd be as I said, we'd be a better team with Martial over Rashford. We'd be a better team with Donny over Bruno, and we'd be a better team with Bailly over Maguire. I'm absolutely convinced, 100%, we'd be a better team with Martial, Donny and Bailly than we would with Maguire, Bruno and Rashford. I'm not saying that they're saviours, but they're better than those 3 at the moment. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video, make sure you subscribe. Thanks everyone who's joined the members club. If you want to join the members club, click the join button, get your little badge next to your name like Sally Devil Red 7, and we've got exclusive content for you there. I've got another one going up tomorrow. Big shout out to all the moderators as well and the community. It's therapy, I know. It's therapy. I'll be back at 2, and it's not an 8 o'clock show tonight. It's a 7 o'clock show tonight because we're doing Arsenal against Chelsea at 8 o'clock on That's Football. Thanks for watching. We have got career mode later on as well. I'll try and get some wins in a United shirt. Speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.